All right. Welcome back. I'm going to see if I can, let me see if I can make this bigger. Oh, man. Trusting a machine to do its job is dangerous. All right. Here, let me grab my mouse. It'll go bigger if I get to my mouse. There we go. All right. So we have 3 goals today, and this is our last lesson that is going to be pre-algebra review. So our 3 goals are to be able to solve systems of equations using substitution, to be able to solve systems of equations using elimination, and to be able to solve systems of equations using graphing. So what is a system? So a system is whenever you have 2 or more equations that share a point or points. Usually it looks a little something like this. Along those lines. Both of those are in standard form. So it's like whenever you have 2 equations and you're saying, okay, solve the system, what you're trying to do is find that point or points that those 2 equations are sharing. So our first method, goal number 1, is using substitution. This is whenever you're going to plug in an expression for a variable. Okay, so remember expressions. I forgot the ION on that. Okay. An expression is anytime you have a variable and a constant going on, and there's some addition or subtraction or some multiplication happening. That is considered an algebraic expression. And remember variables are x, y, and all that jazz. So our first example, remember our examples are going to be like problems on the homework. Part of your homework today is going to be multiple choice, and other parts of it are going to be short answer. Questions like this are going to be short answer, okay? And I will tell you exactly how to type those in to Google Form, okay? These are short answers. Now, first thing you want to do when we're talking about substitution is go ahead and see if they are already telling you what a variable equals. So I notice here that they're saying, okay, y equals -5. So we already know part of our answer. And all your answers are going to be in this format, x, comma, y. So we already know -5 goes in for y. So how do we find what our x answer is? Well, we're going to take this, and anywhere there's a y, we're going to substitute in a -5 in the other equation. So now we have 4x plus 5, and instead of y, we're going to write in -5 equals -1. Now we're going to use this information to solve for x and find our answer for our x. So let's see, we have 5 times -5, which is -25. And make sure you use a calculator. There's no shame in using a calculator because sometimes students will slip up when they're dealing with positives and negatives. So please use a calculator to help you. All right, now we want to keep 4x over here. Let's move our 25 over here. Remember to turn it opposite when you move it. So we have 4x equals 24. Divide by 4. We get x equals 6. So that's what goes up here. This is your final answer. When you type this into Google Forms, do not use any spaces. So it would be parentheses, and please remember your parentheses. Parentheses 6, comma, -5 close parentheses. No spaces, okay? None, zero, zilch, nada. All right, let's do another example. All right, still using substitution. I notice that we do know one of our variables. We are told here that y is equal to -3x minus 18, which means anywhere there's a y, we're going to plug in -3x minus 18 into the other equation. All right, so we have -9x minus 3. Instead of y, we're going to put -3x minus 18. We substituted in that expression for y. You're like, why are we doing that? Because we want to find the variable of x or the variable of y. We need both of them, but we're going to start with x. All right, let's go ahead and solve this one for x. So we have negative x, and before we can do the whole variables and constants on the equal sign, we need to take care of this right here. Remember, when you have a number right outside the parentheses, you're going to do what we call distributive property, which means you're going to take this number on the outside and everything inside that parentheses, it's going to get multiplied by. So we have negative 3 times negative 3x, and then we have negative 3 times negative 18 gives this. Okay, now let's talk about our constants and our variables here. So over here on this side, we have negative 9x plus 9x. Over here we have 54, and we want to move this one over, minus 54. And if you notice, we're going to get 0 equals 0. We don't have a variable for x, so therefore we can't find y. So what is our answer? Your answer would be infinite solutions. Yes, you may use spacing here. If you don't want infinite solutions, you could say many solutions. That is another option. Pretty much what it means is that any set of numbers can be put into both of these equations and it will work out. Infinite solutions, many solutions. Do not put both of them, only one of them. Okay? All right, so that's everything for goal 1, substitution. Now let's talk about goal 2, elimination. So what is elimination? Elimination is when you manipulate or when you change one or both equations to eliminate a variable. Okay, so for instance, I'm looking at this equation here. I have system here. We have negative 10x minus 5y equals negative 20. We have 6x plus y equals 28. Now, none of those are eliminating. And what I mean by that is if I wanted to eliminate this negative 10x, I would need a positive 10x. That's not an option. We can't even change 6 to 10 or even manipulate these unless we wanted to turn them both to 60 or 30. We don't want to do that. But look at this. We have a negative 5y and a positive y. That is an easy manipulation. For us to turn this into a positive 5y, all we need to do is multiply it by 5. And whatever you do to one thing in the equation to be able to eliminate, you must do it to all of them. So our top equation doesn't change any. Our bottom one does. Now, everything's going to get multiplied by 5. Alright, now they can eliminate. Here's how we do that. So we have negative 10x plus 30x. That leaves us with 20x. Negative 5y plus 5y. They now eliminate. They are gone. They zero out. Then we have negative 20 plus 140. That leaves us with 120. All right, we can solve for x now. Divide by 20. And we get x equals 6. Yes. Now, are we done? Why, no, because remember our answer has to be x comma y. And right now, all we know is 6 comma nothing right now. You're like, well, how do we find y? Do we need to eliminate the x's? No. Now we're going to go back to substitution. Just take one of your equations and substitute in the x value. So we can just plug it in. I prefer if I change something, like we changed this bottom one, I go ahead and use the original one that didn't change. If you have to change both of them, which I don't think I put any of those on your homework. Actually, I know I didn't. But just plug it into the one that you don't manipulate. So I'm going to take my negative 10 times 6 minus 5y equals negative 20. That gives me negative 60 minus 5y equals negative 20. All right, now let's do our constants and our variables. So we have negative 5y over here, and we have negative 20. Let's move this over, plus 60. So we have negative 5y equals 40 divided by negative 5. And we get y equals negative 8. So this right here is our final answer. Parentheses 6 comma negative 8 close your parentheses. Remember, no spaces. All right. And our last goal today is to solve systems by graphing. So graphing means we're going to graph the equation. Make this one again. Graph equations. Oh no, it's running low. Let's get a different color. All right, graph the equations, and your solution is where they intersect. AKA where they cross. Okay? So, just a little review on graphing real quick. Both of these are in point slope form, which is y equals mx plus b. This is your y-intercept. That's where it crosses the y-axis. That's the axis that goes up and down. This is your slope. It is also known as rise over run. All right, so let me go ahead and create our graph. These are the ones that are multiple choice, because I know that sometimes when you graph, it's not going to be perfect, especially if you don't have graph paper. So you can kind of get like an estimate of what the answer is. So I went ahead and did it multiple choice. All right, so here's our x and our y. All right, so our first equation, right here, our y-intercept is at 3, and our slope is negative 1. So that means I'm going to go up to 3, 1, 2, 3, and that's where my first dot's going to go. Now, negative 1 over 1, that means I'm going to rise negative 1, so I'm going to go down 1, and I'm going to run positive 1. I'm going to go over 1, like so. And you could keep doing the slope like I'm doing right here, or you could just use a ruler and go ahead and draw your line. Okay. All right, our next equation, our y-intercept here is negative 1, and our slope is negative 5 over 1. You're like, where are you getting that over 1 from? Remember, if it's just a solid number, like these are negative 5, that's negative 1, to turn it into a fraction, we're just going to put it over 1 because it means the same thing. So I'm going to plot a point at negative 1 on the y-axis. And then I'm going to go down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 1. And then I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to go up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over the other way, 1. Okay, and then we're going to cross. All right, and this is why I made the answers multiple choice, because this is kind of difficult to see where they intersect. So we can't necessarily say what point that is, but if we had the multiple choice question in front of us, we could go, okay, which one is that closest to out of the answers? So to me, it looks like maybe it is like around maybe 0.5 and 2.5. That's what it looks like to me. Now I'm not really sure. But that's what it looks like to me. So, if you have any questions, please feel free to message me. Thanks, guys.